I want to tell you about the moment my mother-in-law slid a manila envelope across the dinner table. She had been planning it for weeks. She had practiced her expression. She had arranged the audience. 14 people. Sunday dinner. Her dining room. Her stage. She looked at my husband and said, "Ryan, I think you need to see this." She believed, completely, absolutely, that the envelope contained proof that our daughter was not his. She was wrong. But here is the part she never saw coming. I had known about the test for 11 days. And what I did with those 11 days was not what Barbara expected. It never is when you underestimate a nurse. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I am 32 years old. I was born in Asheville, North Carolina, second of 3 children. My father drove a school bus. My mother was a pediatric nurse at Mission Hospital for 31 years. I grew up watching my mother do something remarkable every day without fanfare. She would come home from a 12-hour shift smelling of antiseptic and cafeteria, coffee, and she would sit at the kitchen table for exactly 15 minutes. Nobody talked to her during those minutes. We learned early. Those 15 minutes were the wall between the hospital and the home, between the children who needed her professionally and the children who needed her personally. After 15 minutes, she would stand up, pour a glass of water, and become our mother again, completely, without residue. I wanted to be exactly that from the time I was 9 years old. Went to UNC Chapel Hill, nursing program. Graduated 2013, got my pediatric certification 2015, started at Atrium Health in Charlotte the following spring. I was good at my job, not because I was naturally calm, because I had been trained by my mother, by my education, by 3 years of night shifts to find the still point inside a crisis, to read what was not being said, to notice what other people missed, to document everything, always, without exception. In nursing, documentation is not paperwork. It is protection. For the patient, for the family, for yourself. I had been documenting my own life the same way since I was 26 years old. Since the first Sunday dinner at Barbara Holloway's house when I watched her scan me. The way you scan an IV bag for air. Bubbles, methodically, looking for the thing that did not belong. I did not know then what she was looking for. I know now. She was looking for a reason. She had decided I was not right for Ryan before I sat down at her table. She just needed to find the medical language for the diagnosis she had already made. Ryan Mitchell was 30 when I met him. Construction project manager, steady, patient. The kind of man who reads the instructions before assembling anything and actually follows them. We met at a hospital fundraiser. He was there with a colleague. I was there because my supervisor had guilted the entire floor into attending. He was standing near the bar, looking slightly too tall for the room and slightly too honest for small talk. I walked over because he looked like someone who would rather be somewhere else. I felt that way too. We talked for 2 hours. He paid for my cab home. He texted the next morning with no games and no calculated delay. Just, "I had a really good time. Can I see you again?" Ryan had grown up in Charlotte. His father, Douglas, was a retired electrical contractor, quiet man, methodical, the kind of father who showed love through fixing things. Every broken hinge, every loose railing, every appliance that made the wrong sound. Douglas was there, silently, tools in hand. And then there was Barbara. Barbara Holloway Mitchell was 58 years old when I met her. Former high school English teacher, retired at 55, now fully dedicated to the management of her family. She was intelligent. I want to say that clearly. Barbara was one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. She read 3 books a week. She remembered every conversation she had ever had. She could quote Shakespeare and cite property law in the same breath. But intelligence in the service of fear is a dangerous thing. The first time I met her, she hugged Ryan for 12 seconds. I counted. Not because it was strange, because I am a nurse and I notice duration. 12 seconds is a long hug for a son who visits every week. She shook my hand, firm, brief, eyes already working. "So you are a nurse," she said. "Pediatric, yes." Barbara nodded. "Long hours. Must be hard on a relationship." She said it lightly, the way you mention weather. But the implication was already in the room, filed, labeled, ready to be retrieved. Ryan laughed it off. "That is just Mom." No, I thought. That is not just Mom. That is a woman who has already decided something and is building the case. Ryan and I got married on a Saturday in September. Outdoor ceremony. 60 guests. My mother flew in from Asheville. Barbara wore a dress the exact color of wedding cake frosting. My maid of honor said it was a power move. I said I did not care. I was marrying a good man. Emma arrived 18 months later, born on a Tuesday morning. 6 pounds, 11 ounces. She came out with her eyes open. The nurse said that was unusual. I said she is already paying attention. Barbara held Emma in the hospital room, and for one moment, one clean, unguarded moment, she was just a grandmother. Real warmth, real love, tears that nobody had to perform. That moment lasted about 4 months. At 4 months, Emma's hair began to change. She had been born with dark fuzz, the kind that falls out and grows back different. And what grew back was not dark. Strand by strand, week by week, light brown became golden. Golden became something warmer, something that caught the afternoon. Light in our kitchen and turned the color of autumn leaves. By her first birthday, Emma had copper gold curls that made strangers stop us on the street. My grandmother had the same hair. My aunt, my cousin in Oregon. The genetics were not a mystery to me. But Barbara did not see genetics. She saw an inconsistency. And inconsistencies, to a woman who had spent 30 years correcting other people's errors, were not something you left alone. She started at Emma's first birthday party, standing in our kitchen, holding a curl between her fingers, the way you hold a thread you are about to pull. Interesting, she said softly. Where does this come from? My maternal line, I said. Recessive gene. Skips generations. She set the curl down. Because there is nothing like that on our side. Nothing at all. She said it to Ryan, not to me. That was the first thing noticed. She did not challenge me. She planted the seed in her son, and I filed it away the way I filed everything. Date, time, exact words. Item 1, red pen. The beginning of the notebook. Barbara did not do anything dramatically. That was the genius of it, and the cruelty. She was methodical the way a slow leak is methodical. You do not notice until the ceiling falls. The comments about Emma's hair became routine. Not every visit, but often enough. Layered between normal conversation, so that if you pointed to any single one it would seem like nothing. She is so uniquely colored. Are you sure there is no Irish in your family, Sarah? Ryan, has anyone on your side ever had that coloring? I started writing them down. Not immediately. After the 5th one, when the pattern was undeniable. I kept a small notebook in the nightstand drawer. Left side, my side, the same drawer where I kept my nursing license and Emma's vaccination records. Documentation is protection. My mother taught me that at age 12 when she sat me down with a school form and said, always keep a copy, always. By month 8, I had 16 entries. Ryan's sister Melissa amplified it from her own channel. She was 26, still living with Barbara, still orbiting her the way small planets orbit larger ones. No, independent trajectory. Melissa posted a photo of Emma on her Instagram with the caption, Our little mystery girl. Where does she get that hair? 3 question mark emojis. 900 likes. I showed Ryan. He sighed. That is just Melissa being Melissa. Ryan had a gift for seeing his family without their edges. It was one of the things I loved about him. It was also the thing that almost cost us everything. The extended family began to shift. Douglas's brother Carl stopped meeting my eyes at barbecues. Barbara's close friend, Janet, started watching me with the specific attention of someone waiting for confirmation of something they had already decided. None of it was said out loud. None of it had to be. Barbara was not building a case with words. She was building one with silence. The kind of silence that fills a room with suspicion, the way carbon monoxide fills. A house, invisible, odorless. And by the time you notice something is already dying. I noticed. I just needed proof before I moved. In nursing, you do not act on what you suspect. You act on what you can document. I was still documenting. It was a Thursday in March. Ryan had a site inspection 3 hours south. I had a double shift, a 7-year-old post. Surgery patient who needed consistent monitoring through the afternoon. Barbara offered to watch Emma. I dropped Emma off at 9. Packed her bag, her stuffed rabbit. The purple juice box she had been obsessed with for 3 weeks. Grape. She called it Purple Magic. I picked Emma up at 6:30. The juice box was gone. Oh, I threw that out, Barbara said. It was getting old. I had bought it 4 days earlier. I did not push it. I thanked her and loaded Emma into the car seat. But as I walked through the kitchen to get Emma's jacket from the counter, I saw something. A small Ziploc bag on the table. The kind you use for snack storage. Or samples. Barbara moved fast. She picked it up, turned away, tucked it into the drawer under the phone charger. Just tidying, she said without being asked. And on the hallway desk, partially visible under a stack of mail, A white envelope, thick, the kind that comes from a lab. I did not connect all of it that night. The juice box, the Ziploc bag, the envelope. Puzzle pieces without a picture. But my brain, the part of me, trained for 12 years to notice what children could not tell me. That part was already working. I went home, gave Emma her bath, read her the rabbit book. She fell asleep mid-sentence. I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea. I did not drink and let my brain finish its work. By the time Ryan came home, I had the outline. I just needed confirmation. The call came on a Tuesday. I was between patients in the supply room restocking saline bags. The number was local. I almost let it go to voicemail. Ms. Mitchell, this is Jennifer from Clarity Genetics. We are calling to confirm receipt of a minor sample submitted for DNA analysis under the name Emma Mitchell, age 2. I set the saline bag on the shelf. I did not submit a sample. The submission was made by a Barbara Mitchell, Jennifer said. She identified herself as the child's grandmother. Our protocol requires written parental consent for genetic testing of minors. We were unable to verify consent and have placed the test on hold. Would you like to proceed or cancel? Cancel. My voice did not shake. It never does when something matters. I learned that from my mother, who delivered news to parents about their children for 31 years without once raising her voice. Because raised voices do not help anyone breathe. I hung up and stood in the supply room for 4 minutes, counted the saline bags, let the numbers ground me the way they always did. Then I picked up my phone and called a family attorney. Her name was Diane Park, family law, New Haven trained, 14 years of practice. My co-worker, Priya, had used her during her custody case and said 3 words about her. She does not flinch. I told Diane everything. The comments, the juice box, the Ziploc bag, the lab call. She listened the way the best clinicians listen, completely, without interrupting, without preparing her response while I was still talking. When I finished, she said, under North Carolina law, a grandparent cannot authorize genetic testing of a minor without express parental consent. Full stop. What she did is a violation of your daughter's privacy rights. It may also be actionable in civil court. I asked, should I confront her? No, Diane said it immediately. Do not confront her. Do not tell Ryan yet. Why not? Because if you tell Ryan, he calls his mother. She cries. She apologizes. He asks you to keep it in the family. Nothing changes. The pattern is too old. You cannot break a 30-year pattern with a phone call. She paused. Let her finish what she started. Let her present the results the way she plans to. Then you respond. With documentation. With witnesses. With everything she handed you by doing this in the first place. I paid the consultation fee. $350. Best money I ever spent. Walking to my car, I called Clarity Genetics back. Confirmed the sample was canceled. Requested a flag on any future submissions involving Emma Mitchell without my written authorization. Then I drove to daycare. Emma ran to me at the door. Arms up, copper gold curls. Purple grape stain on her chin from the afternoon snack. I held her and thought, nobody is taking anything from us. Not a hope, a fact. Let me tell you what I did in those 11 days, because this is the part that mattered. Day 1, I went home, put Emma to bed, opened my laptop, searched DNA testing consent laws, North Carolina minor child, read for 2 hours, printed 3 pages, added them to my documentation folder. Day 2, I called Clarity Genetics and asked them to confirm in writing that the sample had been canceled. They emailed a confirmation. I printed it, filed it. Day 3, I opened Barbara's Facebook page. She rarely posted, but Melissa tagged her in things. I scrolled back 6 months and found what I was looking for. Melissa had shared an article in January, "What your DNA can tell you about people you never knew you had." Barbara had commented, "Very interesting." Single red heart emoji. I took a screenshot, saved it. Day 4, I did something I had not planned. Something that changed everything. I created my own account on the same consumer DNA platform Barbara had used alongside the clinical lab, not to test anyone, to understand how the system worked. Here is what I learned. When you submit a DNA sample to one of these platforms, the system does not just analyze the sample you submitted. It cross-references that sample against every other profile in the database, looking for shared markers, potential relatives, half-siblings, cousins, anyone who shares enough DNA to flag as a genetic connection. Barbara had submitted Emma's sample, which meant Emma's DNA profile had been cross-referenced with the entire database. I found the login information for the account Barbara had created. She had used her email address and Emma's birthday as the password. Of course she had. I logged in, and under potential relatives on Emma's profile was a name I had never seen. Marcus T., age 34. Columbia, South Carolina. Relationship estimate, half-uncle or equivalent. One stared at the screen for a very long time. Half-uncle meant one thing. Marcus shared a biological parent with either Ryan or with me. Since I was not biologically connected to this platform's test, only Emma was. The match had to be on Ryan's side, which meant either Douglas had a secret son or Barbara did. I took a screenshot and emailed it to Diane. Diane called the next morning. If this match is accurate, someone in your husband's family has a biological connection to this man that has never been disclosed. Or Barbara has a connection, I said. She submitted the test. Diane was quiet. Then she said, "We need to find out who Marcus T. is." Marcus Thomas Reed, born March 1990, Columbia, South Carolina. Adopted at birth through a private agency in Charlotte. It took me 3 evenings to find this. The DNA platform had limited public information, but Marcus had opted into the open to contact feature. His profile said, adopted, searching for biological family. Born 1990, Barbara was 24. She and Douglas married in 1991. Ryan was born in 1992. Barbara had a child 1 year before she married Douglas. She gave that child up and never told anyone. Except when I looked at Marcus's shared match report more carefully, I noticed something. One of the other profiles that both Marcus and Emma connected to was tagged Patricia L., possible aunt or half-aunt. Barbara's closest friend, the one who had been watching me with careful eyes at every family dinner for 6 years. Patricia knew. She had known for 34 years. I sat at my kitchen table and thought about Barbara. Not with anger, not yet. I thought about a 24-year-old woman, unmarried, probably terrified, making a decision that would follow her for the rest of her life. I am a pediatric nurse. I have sat with mothers making impossible choices in hospital rooms at 3 in the morning. I understood that kind of fear. I have held that kind of hand. But here is the thing about understanding a choice and forgiving. The lie that follows it, they are not the same thing. Barbara had not just given up a child. She had buried that truth so completely, so absolutely that when her granddaughter was born with unexpected coloring, her first instinct was not to examine her own history. It was to examine mine. She was afraid of being found, and she turned that fear into a weapon pointed at my daughter. I printed everything, organized the documentation folder, dates, events, lab confirmation, platform screenshots, Marcus's profile, the shared match with Patricia. I backed it up to my cloud drive and emailed copies to Diane. Diane called. "You have everything you need, I know. Are you sure you want to let her present this publicly? You could stop it now." I thought about 6 years of documented comments, 16 notebook entries, a juice box thrown away, a Ziploc bag tucked into a drawer, a test ordered on my daughter without my consent, I am sure. Day 7, I drove to Barbara's house to pick up Emma's sneakers she had left there the previous weekend. Barbara was out. "Hair appointment," Melissa said when she opened the door. She was in the living room, phone propped against a book, FaceTiming someone. I walked past toward the mudroom. Melissa's voice carried the way it always did, louder than necessary, as if the room needed to hear her participation in every moment. "Mom has everything ready," she was saying. "She is doing it Sunday. At dinner, in front of everyone." I stopped, my hand on Emma's left sneaker. "She has been building to this for months," Melissa continued. Once Ryan sees the results, the voice on the other end said, something one could not make out. Melissa laughed. "I know. It is going to be insane." I picked up both sneakers and walked back through the living room. Melissa saw me and killed the call. "Oh, hey, just talking to a friend." I smiled. "No worries. Just grabbing the sneakers. Tell Ryan I said hi, will do." I walked to my car, sat behind the wheel, sneakers on the passenger seat, both hands on the steering wheel pressed until my knuckles turned white. Now I knew 3 things. When Sunday? Where? The dinner table. Who would be watching? Everyone. Barbara had built a stage. She had cast an audience. She had rehearsed her lines. And she believed fully, absolutely believed, that the results would say what she needed them to say. I started the car. I was not going to stop her. I was going to let her light the match. The fire would find its own way back. Sunday morning I dressed carefully. Simple navy dress. The small gold earrings Ryan gave me on our 2nd anniversary. No war paint. No armor. Just me. Emma wore a yellow dress with white flowers. She spun twice in the hallway mirror. I let her spin both times. Ryan loaded the car. 40 minutes north. Country radio. Emma fell asleep before the highway. I watched Ryan's hands on the wheel. Strong hands. Capable hands. The hands of a man who built things for a living. I thought, today those hands would either hold mine or let go. We pulled into Barbara's driveway at 4. 3 cars already there. Douglas's truck. Melissa's sedan. A silver Honda I recognized as Patricia's. Full house. Barbara met us at the door. She hugged Ryan the way she always hugged him when she was about to do something she believed was righteous, long, firm, her eyes already bright. She nodded at me. Efficient, brief, put Emma down upstairs, she said. She can nap in the guest room. I carried Emma up, laid her on the bed, pulled a blanket over her legs. Her copper gold curls fanned across the white pillow. Back downstairs, the family was assembled. Douglas in his chair by the window, Carl beside him. Melissa on the couch, phone in hand, leg bouncing. Janet setting out napkins. Patricia standing by the china cabinet, arms crossed, mouth tight. And on the hallway table, exactly where I had seen it 2 weeks ago, the manila envelope, thick, sealed, waiting. Barbara caught me looking at it. She smiled. Dinner first, she said. The pot roast was excellent. Barbara had always been a superb cook. One of the few things about her that was not a performance. Douglas told a story about a fishing trip. Carl laughed. Janet complimented the gravy. Normal sounds, normal dinner. But I was watching the currents beneath the surface. Melissa checked her phone every 40 seconds. Not texting, but watching the clock. She was on a countdown. Patricia held her fork, the way some people hold the railing on a bridge. Tight grip, eyes straight ahead. She ate almost nothing. Barbara sat at the head of the table, smiling at everyone, asking about Carl's truck, refilling Douglas's water. She was performing calm the way an actor performs grief technically perfect. Emotionally hollow. 20 minutes in the small talk had run its course. Barbara stood up, smoothed her blouse, cleared her throat. Before dessert, there is something I want to share with the family. The table went quiet. Douglas set his fork down. Melissa stopped checking her phone. Patricia closed her eyes just for a second, just long enough for me to notice. Barbara walked to the hallway, returned with the envelope, held it at chest height, label facing out the way you hold an exhibit. She set it on the table and slid it toward Ryan. I think you need to see this. Ryan looked at the envelope, then at his mother. What is this? Barbara placed both hands flat on the table. She had rehearsed this. I could tell by the measured breathing. The same cadence she had probably used for 30 years of classroom management. This is a DNA test for Emma. The room contracted. Douglas said, Barbara, what have you done? She did not look at him. She looked at me. I love this family. She said it the way people say I had no choice. And that child, she gestured toward the ceiling, toward the room where Emma slept, does not look like a Mitchell. And I think Ryan has a right to know the truth. Open it, Barbara said. Ryan picked up the envelope, broke the seal, pulled out the pages. He read in silence. 15 seconds. 20. Long enough for Barbara to shift her weight. Long enough for Melissa to stop breathing. Ryan looked up. He looked at Barbara. She is mine. Barbara blinked. What? Probability of paternity, 99.9998%. He held up the page. Emma is my daughter. The smile on Barbara's face did not fall. It fractured the way ice fractures on a windshield still. Technically in place, but no longer holding. That cannot be right, Barbara said, reaching for the pages. Ryan pulled them back. You have done enough, Mom. I had been sitting quietly at the far end of the table, hands folded, watching. Now it was my turn. The results are correct, Barbara. My voice was level, the same voice I use when a parent asks me if their child will be okay. Calm, clear, carrying. More weight than volume. I know because I called Clarity Genetics 11 days ago when they contacted me to verify parental consent for a test you submitted without my authorization. The room shifted. Not a sound, a vibration. The kind you feel in the floor before the train arrives. Douglas stood slowly, his chair scraping across the hardwood. A sound that cut through the silence like a blade across stone. Barbara, he said, you tested our granddaughter without their permission. Barbara's chin lifted. I was protecting this family. Under North Carolina state law, I said a grandparent cannot authorize genetic testing of a minor without written parental consent. My attorney has already been advised. I said it the way I document a patient's chart, factual, chronological, without adjectives. Barbara's face cycled through. Colors, pink, red, white, her. Hand found her necklace, a gold chain she always touched when her certainty met resistance. But that is not the most interesting thing in those results. Every head turned. Ryan looked at me. What do you mean? Keep reading, I said. Page 4. He flipped through the pages, past the paternity confirmation, past the methodology, past the consent disclosure, and reached the familial match report. He read aloud slowly, the way you read something you do not yet understand. Potential familial match. Marcus T., age 34. Columbia, South Carolina. Relationship estimate. Half-uncle to Emma Mitchell. He stopped, read it again, looked at me, looked at Barbara. Half-uncle. He said it like a translation. That would mean he is either my half-brother or Sarah's half-brother. He is not mine, I said. Ryan turned to Barbara. Mom, who is Marcus? Barbara's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her hand dropped from the necklace. Even the nervous gesture had abandoned her. I do not know what. Patricia's fork hit her plate. She stood up. Barb, do not. 2 words, and the room understood everything. Douglas stood slowly. His chair scraped across the hardwood. Barbara, answer the question. She looked at Patricia. Patricia shook her head. A small, desperate no. It was before Douglas, Barbara said. Her voice cracked. Not the practiced crack of a woman performing vulnerability. A real crack. The kind that comes from a wall bearing weight for 34 years finally giving way. I was young. I was so scared. I was not ready. You had a child. Ryan's voice was flat. I was 24. It was before your father. I was so ashamed. Douglas's hand found the back of his chair. He held it the way you hold something when the ground is no longer steady. You told Patricia, he said, looking at her. But not me. Patricia's arms wrapped around herself. Douglas, she was scared. Were you scared for 34 years, Barb? The question landed and stayed. Nobody moved. Barbara's eyes filled. Real tears, the kind that come from watching a foundation you built, with silence crumble, under the weight of your own design. For one moment, one small strange moment, I saw her. Not the Barbara who had spent 6 years questioning my daughter's DNA, but the 24-year-old girl who had sat in a hospital in Charlotte and signed papers and walked away from a baby she was not allowed to keep. I understood that girl. My heart ached for her. Then Barbara wiped her eyes, straightened her back, and said, This is Sarah's fault. She brought this up to humiliate me. The moment of sympathy evaporated, like steam off a window. Gone. Ryan stepped forward. Mom, Sarah did not bring up anything. You ordered the DNA test. You planned this dinner. You slid that envelope across the table. He picked up the pages and held them toward her. I think you need to see this. He said it slowly. The same word she had used 20 minutes earlier. Is that not what you said? We saw it. All of... I went upstairs. Emma was still sleeping. Copper gold curls spread across the white pillow like small rivers of light. I lifted her gently. She stirred, pressed her face into my neck, and settled. I carried her downstairs. The dining room was emptying. Douglas had his jacket. Carl was at the front door. Patricia stood by the china cabinet frozen, arms around herself. At the door, Barbara stepped in front of Ryan. Her eyes were swollen. Her carefully maintained appearance looked suddenly wrong, like a costume. Ryan, please. We can talk. Ryan stopped and looked at her. You did not want to talk, Mom. You wanted to perform. He opened the door. I buckled Emma into her car seat. She murmured something about her rabbit. I handed it to her. She grabbed it with both fists and went back to sleep. The house behind us emptied one person at a time. The dinner Barbara had planned to expose me had emptied her own home instead. We drove in silence for 10 minutes. Emma asleep in the back. Highway empty. Sunday evening light. Ryan spoke first. How long did you know? 11 days. About Marcus. 6. Why did you not tell me? I had practiced this. Not in words, in logic. Because if I had told you, you would have called her. She would have cried. She would have apologized. She would have asked you to keep it in the family. And nothing would have changed. The pattern was 34 years old. I could not break it with a phone call. You needed to see her perform. He was quiet for a mile. You are saying I would have protected her. I am saying you always had. Not because you were weak. Because you loved her. And she used that. Another mile. I have a half-brother in Columbia. Marcus. He said the name like he was testing its weight. I watched his profile against the passing lights. The jaw Emma had inherited. The shoulders that carried more than construction materials. He was not shutting down. He was processing. The way he processed everything, by going still and letting it move through him. He reached across the center console, found my hand, held it. He did not let go until we pulled into our driveway. He turned off the engine, sat for a moment, looked at me. "Thank you," he said, "for not protecting me from this." I squeezed his hand. "That is not what partners do." Monday, Ryan called Barbara. "I need time. Do not contact Sarah or Emma." "Barbara, for how long?" "Ryan, until I am ready." He hung up, poured coffee, went to work. Tuesday, Douglas called. He was staying at Carl's. His voice was steady, the way good electricians are steady, even when the current is wrong. "I can live with a mistake she made at 24, he said slowly. "People make mistakes, but I cannot live with 34 years of silence." "That is not a mistake. That is a decision made every single day." Ryan did not respond. Sometimes silence is the kindest thing a son can offer. Wednesday, Diane sent Barbara a formal letter. Cease and desist. Unauthorized genetic testing. Notice of potential civil action. North Carolina privacy statutes. Barbara called Ryan panicked. Ryan told her to read it carefully and call a lawyer. Thursday, Melissa texted me 3 words. "I am sorry." Then a longer message. "I should not have amplified it. I should have questioned her. I was wrong." I replied, "Thank you for saying that." Friday evening, Ryan sat at the kitchen table with his laptop. He had been quiet all week. Not withdrawn, focused, the way he focused on blueprints. "I found him," he said. "Marcus." He turned the screen toward me. "A photo on a community college website. Marcus Thomas Reed, high school history teacher, Charlotte Satellite Campus. Same jaw as Ryan, same slight crook in the nose. He posted on the platform 2 years ago looking for his birth mother. Ryan emailed him Saturday morning. He wrote and deleted it 4 times. I watched from the kitchen doorway, saying nothing. He needed to find the words himself. The final version was short. "My name is Ryan Mitchell. I believe I may be your half-brother. My mother was born in Charlotte in 1966. If you are open to talking, I would like that very much." Marcus responded in 90 minutes. "I have been looking for her for 7 years. I never expected to hear from a brother." They scheduled a video call that evening. Ryan set up his laptop at the kitchen table. I took Emma to the living room. At 7:15, I heard Ryan say, "Hi, I am Ryan," and a voice I did not recognize. Deeper than Ryan's, steadier. "Hi, Ryan. I am Marcus." I stayed in the living room, but I could hear them. After 20 minutes, I heard Ryan cry. Not the quiet kind. The kind that comes from deep in the chest. From a place most people spend their lives pretending does not exist. I stood in the kitchen doorway. On the screen, Marcus was crying too. Same jaw, same eyes. 34 years apart, and they looked like 2 versions of the same blueprint. Emma tugged my hand. "Mommy, why is Daddy sad?" I picked her up. "He is not sad, baby. He is meeting someone new." 6 months later, Barbara and Douglas went to therapy. Douglas moved back home after 2 months. He set conditions. Honesty, full disclosure. No more buried histories. Barbara agreed. She stopped touching her necklace the way she used to. That particular nervous gesture, the one she used every time. Her certainty met resistance. It simply stopped. As if the thing she had been holding on to for 34 years had finally been set down. Melissa apologized formally. In writing, a handwritten letter, 3 pages, to both me and Ryan. It was the most honest thing she had ever produced. The relationship was rebuilding, slowly the way you rebuild anything worth keeping, one honest conversation at a time. Patricia was not invited to Thanksgiving. Nobody discussed the absence. It spoke clearly enough. Ryan flew to Columbia in the spring, sat with Marcus in a diner for 4 hours. 2 men with the same jaw, the same slightly crooked nose, 34 years of distance between them. Marcus brought his wife Keisha and their daughter Zoe, 3 years old. She and Emma FaceTime now every Sunday. 2 cousins who should have grown up together, finding each other anyway. The manila envelope sits in my filing cabinet under E for evidence. I never threw it away, not because I need it, but because it reminds me of something I want Emma to know when she's old enough. The weapon someone builds to destroy you is sometimes the same thing that sets you free. Here is what I know now. The people who work hardest to expose your secrets are usually carrying the ones they cannot afford to have exposed. Barbara was not afraid of me. She was afraid of herself, of the girl she had been at 24, of the decision that followed her for 3 decades, of the possibility that one day her own buried history might surface. And when her granddaughter was born with unexpected coloring, she did not look inward. She aimed outward, at me. The irony is that she was right to be afraid. Her history did surface, just not through me, through her own weapon. The test she ordered, the database she uploaded Emma's DNA to, the platform that matched her, granddaughter to the son she had kept buried for 34 years. She built the trap. She set it. She stepped into it herself. And here is what I want you to hear, if you are watching. This and someone in your life is doing what Barbara did. The methodical campaign, the planted seeds, the public performance dressed up as concern. Document everything. Date it, label it, keep the copies, not for revenge, for the record, because the truth does not need a stage. It does not need an audience. It does not need a manila envelope slid across a dinner table. It just needs time. And someone who was paying attention the whole time. I am a pediatric nurse. I spend my days watching for what children cannot tell me, reading the signals, documenting the patterns, waiting for the moment when the data is complete. Barbara mistook my quietness for passivity. She was not the first person to make that mistake. Emma is upstairs right now. I can hear her singing to her stuffed rabbit, the same song every night. She makes up the words as she goes. Her copper gold curls catch the nightlight the way they catch every light. Like small fires, warm, alive, entirely hers. Nobody is taking anything from us. That was never a hope. It was always a fact.